Welcome to the next episode. Hey guys, this is part 2 of our mock draft 1.0. I'm Ace, joined as always by Jay and Andrew. What's going on, fellas?
How we doing?
Great to see you guys as always. Today is point 2 of the draft, so part 2 of the draft. So we're going to cover teams 17 through 32. There are a few teams that don't have a first round pick that will unfortunately not get their numbers, their names called up onto the board, but that's okay. So we have we left off last week with. Let me pull it up real quick for you fantastic people. Last week we had the Jaguars taking Trevor Lawrence, the Jets taking Zach Wilson, the 49ers taking Justin Fields, the Atlanta Falcons taking Kyle Pitts, the Bengals taking Jamar Chase, the Dolphins taking Penei Sewell, the Lions taking Devontae Smith, Panthers taking Rashawn Slater, the Broncos taking Micah Parsons, the Dallas Cowboys taking Patrick Surtain II, the New York Giants taking Jaelan Phillips, the Eagles taking Jalen Waddle. We're almost done. The Chargers taking Christian Darrisaw. Jay's guy here, Elijah Vera Tucker, going to Minnesota.
Disrespected.
Versatile.
The New England Patriots taking Mac Jones. And J.C. Horn going to the Arizona Cardinals. So without further ado, Andrew, give me the you're on the clock sound.
Do 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 do.
Pretty top tier.
Yeah, not bad, right?
Very good. Yeah.
Watch a lot of drafts in my day.
All of them. The Chiefs usually had a high pick in them.
So if you watched part 1, I superimposed Andrew's his voice in there. I don't know if he's even seen the cut yet, but just a little fun we have here when we edit our wonderful videos for you guys. Okay, so without further ado, let me get into it. The Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock. The Las Vegas Raiders have some holes to fill on their team. Specifically, we know that they potentially could use a safety, an edge rusher, a cornerback, and possibly even a quarterback. Derek Carr is maybe not long for the team. So I'm going to tell you guys who we have going here first, and then we'll kind of talk about who could have been as well. We're going to pick Trey Lance to go to the Las Vegas Raiders. Trey Lance is still on the board. Gruden doesn't necessarily like Trey Lance. We'll have Jay talk about that. But first, Andrew, who would we have picked here otherwise if we weren't going to take Trey Lance?
Yeah, we were looking at guys that are going to be coming up soon here, like Kwity Paye and even guys like Trevon Moehrig. But Trey Lance kind of is going to maybe be the guy to revitalize the quarterback position for the Raiders. I personally had Micah Parsons going here, which was really low when we talked about it on the last show. That was him slipping a lot. I thought he would have been a really good complement for that defense. They really need a guy in behind that defensive line that they're trying to build. So I thought he would have been a good fit. But the Trey Lance pick for us, and Jay will touch more on it, is not for our draft, not for us, because we're not the Raiders. Never want to be. But the Trey Lance pick is solid for this particular draft.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I think maybe when we look back on this, we messed up. We might have messed up somewhere, and have him sliding too much because of all the hype, and obviously quarterback, prime position. It's going to be drafted high, and having him still on the board at 17, I just don't think that John Gruden could pass on the talent. He's only 20 years old. As we mentioned, the Raiders have a lot of holes. The defensive secondary was one of the worst. It's actually been the second worst defensive secondary rated by Pro Football Focus in the last 3 years since John Gruden got there. So I just don't think that they can keep their hands off of a talent like Trey Lance. I mean, we've seen him try to move before. They even brought in Marcus Mariota. He's infatuated with guys that can move. Derek Carr moves a little bit, but not as much for his liking. He also doesn't throw the ball down the field as much as he would like, which, believe it or not, is actually a problem that Trey Lance, that's one of the negatives on him, is he's a little worried about making those contested throws and those big plays down the field unless they're absolutely wide open. One huge thing for him, IQ was off the charts. If Gruden was doing his Gruden camp, he'd have a field day with this dude. He's one of the few college quarterbacks that sets his protections and is trusted to and is trusted to read the entire field. So a lot of quarterbacks in college, they read one read like RPOs, right? They check the RPO for the run. They have one read for like a slant on the outside, and they have a second read for like an out from a tight end or something like that, and then it's over. If that's not open, it's run time. He reads the entire field. He calls his own protections pre-snap, which is something that high IQ functioning quarterbacks do. And at the age of 20 years old, I just don't think that they pass on him. Again, in mock 2.0, there's probably a good chance that he goes a little higher than this. But if he's still here at 17, I don't think Gruden keeps his hands off of him.
Yeah, I believe the same thing too. I think we were a little realistic with or maybe even just super logical with our picks here, which is why we had Trey Lance going where we had him go. So that leaves us with Trey Lance going to the Raiders, filling in for Derek Carr in the future. So the Miami Dolphins, with their second pick in this draft, they already took Penei Sewell for us. We have them with needs still as at wide receiver, edge, linebacker, as well as PFF has them potentially even going like a D lineman or a guard. I think Wyatt Teller's for guard play is like the top rated one, but he's like a second round projection right now. So we have Kwity Paye going here to the Dolphins. Andrew will give his Kwity Paye take. Jay, if they don't take Kwity Paye, do you have who would you have thought they would have taken here?
Yeah, so the guy that I have been taking is someone that is already off of our draft board, because I think Kwity Paye is going to go 11 to the Giants. So I think that Jaelan Phillips would still be here, the edge player from Miami, which is obviously a need for the Dolphins. As you mentioned, they already addressed the offensive side with Penei Sewell. I personally think he'll go to the Bengals, and then the Dolphins will draft Jamar Chase. But either way, I'm okay with being just wrong on one pick. No big deal. Jaelan Phillips is really good, super raw. He did retire that 1 year because of the injuries. I know he got in like a car accident one time too. When you look at Miami, they already have a pretty good defense, especially when you look at their secondary. The problem is pairing another edge rusher or edge player with Emmanuel Ogbah, who they saw made some strides over the last few years. They signed Kyle Van Noy and Lawson 2 years ago or last year, and both of them are gone because they were overpaid and they both stunk. So being able to bring in who Todd McShay calls as the best pass rusher in the draft in Jaelan Phillips is something that I think Brian Flores can't pass up this deep in the first round. And obviously with his second pick, he's already got the offensive line settled up. You have all you need to see if Tua is the guy next year with the Will Fuller addition as well.
Yeah. So Andrew, tell us a little bit about why you think Kwity Paye is going to go here.
Yeah, and like Jay mentioned, he could definitely go at 11 to the Giants. They have a need there. A lot of the reason that I based that Jaelan Phillips was going to be going to the Giants is because I saw a lot of mock drafts, a lot of links, a lot of articles talking about him being number one on the draft board. But either way, Kwity Paye is widely considered probably the most explosive pass rusher in this draft. Going at 18, being the most explosive pass rusher is basically going to be a steal for Miami if they can get him here. He posted an 86.3 overall grade in 2020, according to PFF. And again, like Johnny mentioned, he immediately fills a need for this defense. He's versatile. He for a guy like Brian Flores, who he basically can use him anywhere along the line of scrimmage. But if you line him up opposite of Emmanuel Ogbah, he's going to have great success really coming off the edge. He's just super explosive. He plays at 260, but plays a lot faster than that 260 weight. A lot of guys that you see coming in as like edge rushers here, especially particularly this year, you see a lot of guys in closer to like the 235, 240 range, which is like kind of small for normally what you see in the NFL. So that 260 mark plus the explosiveness definitely is a steal for Miami here at 18.
Cool. Yeah. I think he has some of the traits that will make him successful. I think he just needs to work on a little bit of technique, but I like Kwity Paye there. As you kind of heard the guys talk, Kwity Paye or Jaelan Phillips would have probably been flip-flopped here. So it's just kind of where the teams like their guys and they make their big boards accordingly. So the Washington football team are next on our list. We have them with needs at quarterback, left tackle, linebacker, safety. Also, PFF has needs as wide receiver and tight end. So there's some holes here. They made the playoffs last year. They what did they finish 8-8? or 9-7.
No, that's 7-9, baby.
7-9. Yeah,
Sorry,
know it, baby.
Right.
You don't need a 500 record to win the NFC East.
The last
least.
The last 7-9 team to make the playoffs.
Yes.
So they do have some needs for sure. They have signed some offensive players. So with that in mind, we have them taking a defensive guy here, and we actually like Jamin Davis. Did I say his first name right?
I think so.
What are you doing down there? What is going on at BFF? 100?
Well, that's the average draft position. He's ranked 63rd on their big board.
Okay.
Poor guy had to play Kentucky, man. They're terrible at football.
Yeah. So we actually liked we also liked, had originally thought maybe Zaven Collins, who is a little bit higher ranked in terms of linebacker, but Davis has a better fit here, and Jay's going to tell us all about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's big, he's athletic, he can defend in the run game, can defend in the pass game. John Bostic is still starting for Washington. I feel like he's been starting for Washington for 10 years now. We need to get out of that. This defense is already stupendous. The defensive line is unbelievable. Secondary's only gotten better. I think with Fitzpatrick there, you can obviously see where the quarterback is in need. Don't know who you're getting here at 19 anymore. We already gave away Trey Lance. I think if Trey Lance were to drop that far, obviously Washington's a great fit. No shot that happens. He's just he's a great defensive guy. He just made the move to inside linebacker, which is maybe why people are a little bit tentative on him. But he's got tremendous range. He can cover tight ends in man coverage, which is something that's highly coveted in this league nowadays. So I just think Jamin Davis is going to be a great addition to this Washington defense. Ron Rivera, he loves his middle linebackers. I mean, he had Luke Kuechly, who was one of the best pretty much ever to do it. I'm not saying this dude's going to be Luke Kuechly, but pretty good. I think he's way better than a 65th average, his 100th average draft position, and 65th on their big board. And I don't know what the discrepancy is. Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, Peter Schrager, these guys all have him going as a top 25 pick. So give me Jamin Davis. I even crossed out Jeremiah Owusu here because I liked him there as well. But I think Jamin Davis offers a little bit more upside, even though Owusu is unbelievable. I think he's really undervalued.
Yeah, I think a couple of takeaways of what you said. He sounds like from a best case scenario as a linebacker, you want him to be able to drop in coverage, and then also defend the lines and create contact, chase after running backs and quarterbacks. And I think you kind of painted a picture of where this guy can do both. Mind you, PFF's average draft position here is based off of people doing the drafts here. So there's a little bit of
ninnies, a bunch of ninnies.
I'll
call you out. Yeah.
But if we look here on the left, that's PFF. That's their big board. So they had him in the 60 range, which for a day one starting linebacker is a little low. Okay, so we have the Chicago Bears on the clock. Chicago Bears with our needs for them are quarterback, wide receiver, left tackle, cornerback, as well as PFF here has them listed as needing a guard. We have them taking Caleb Farley with this pick. There are a couple of choices here as far as quarterbacks go, with Newsome still on the board, as well as Asante Samuel Jr. But we like Caleb Farley going here. Andrew, why don't you talk to us a little bit about Farley?
Yeah, so you can't really go wrong with either one of these corners, right? Greg Newsome, we're going to talk about in a second here. No pun intended, because he's Greg Newsome II, but we're going to talk about him a little bit further down the line. But Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech probably dropped a little bit in people's draft boards. I know he was dealing with a nagging injury, but I mean, the guy's just an absolute stud of an athlete. He ran in the 4.3s, and a lot of people just love his instincts, and he kind of just jumps off the screen when you watch him playing in that very tough ACC conference with a lot of good receiving talent. And as we all know, in the ACC, Trevor Lawrence is there, and there are also a plethora of really good quarterbacks and just offensive firepower in that division. So to see him shine in that conference, you can't really go wrong here with Chicago, who just lost Kyle Fuller. So you kind of match up a guy like Kyle Fuller. You think of his size and speed. Kyle Fuller was like a 6'3", really long corner. Caleb Farley is not necessarily the same exact thing, but he's a little shorter. But, yeah, he's 6'2". So I mean, however you want to, when you can never really tell exactly what people's sizes are. Sometimes they're 6'3", sometimes they're 6, they end up being 6 foot. But he is 6'2", running that 4.3. Great, like I said, great speed, great ball skills, and I think this would be a good find for them, regardless of which corner they take here.
Yeah, Chicago's starting cornerbacks right now are Desmond Trufant and Jalen Johnson coming into the season next year. Yeah, they are sprinting to the podium.
They got rid of Kyle Fuller, so yeah.
Right. I mean, he used to play quarterback in high school and then played wide receiver for a little bit. I love that. Oh, I love that. Because he understands the offensive side of the football, right? He knows where stuff's coming. He understands route concepts and how the quarterback's going to be trying to manipulate him with his eyes in order to make stuff happen and get receivers open. So you got to love that. I found a great stat. 2019 was the last full season he played. Obviously, 2020, he opted out. He allowed a completion percentage on passes where he was the closest receiver. The completion percentage of those passes were 24.4%. So if you threw the ball his way, you had a 24.4% chance of getting at your receiver closest to him to catch the football. Good luck. He's sticky, big boy. He's a little raw because, again, he's new to the cornerback position, but ball skills galore. So I think he's severely undervalued. There's a lot of cornerback depth in this draft, man. I mean, Newsome's still on the board. We got him going a little later. These dudes are good, like genuinely very good.
Yeah, I think I like Farley to just from day one to start giving them production. Like you said, he's going to have to work on some of that like technique and but he's tall, he's got the length, he's got the speed. He just got to work out the kinks. And like I said last episode, these guys are getting paid now, so these guys are going to play hard for their money. I know it seems a little fickle, but a lot of these players, that's their number one, motivation, at least when they first get into the league. So we have the Indianapolis Colts now on the board. We have them with the needs at wide receiver, left tackle, and edge, and that kind of lines into what PFF has them going for too. And we actually have Greg Rousseau going here. So Greg Rousseau is edge guy that little lower on this list here, but we will find him from Miami. I know Andrew liked Jaelan Phillips too. So, they're both from Miami. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Nope, they both are.
Yeah.
They never played together though, because 2019 Phillips was hurt. 2020 Rousseau opted out.
So why do we like Rousseau here?
Before he opted out of this season in 2019, in 13 games he put up 16 sacks. So just absolutely filled the stat sheet. He's really tall for an edge rusher, but he's just an absolute force of nature and can kind of play anywhere like along the line. He's 6'7". He only played in 2 games as a freshman before he got, he fractured his ankle. So I don't really know. There's not really much injury history. I mean, fractured ankle is just kind of it repairs and you should be okay. So nothing like in the ligaments or anything. But he was a first team all ACC selection back in 2019 and was his sophomore campaign, I guess, because he didn't play that much in his rookie season. He won the ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year and started 7 of 13 of those games that he played. So just a really good stud. Like we mentioned, there's a lot of depth at cornerback. There's a ton of depth too at edge. A lot of pass rush, and it's just, I mean, you're going to be seeing this. As offenses get better, the defensive players are going to need to get better. The players to stop the receivers and the players to get to the quarterbacks are going to get better. And we're just going to see more of them. But again, 16 sacks in a 13-game season for a college football player, like sign me up if you're Indianapolis here. You really need a lot of, they got rid of, Justin Houston's not coming back. And, he was already on the other side of 30. They have DeForest Buckner, who's really good, but he plays more of the inside. So getting an edge rusher here who could really help solidify that defensive line is really big time for the Colts.
I don't want to sound wrong. I'm sorry. I don't want to sound wrong because I like this pick. It's who I had them taking as well. One thing to take in mind, though, super raw. Andrew mentioned, we've said that a few times today, but doesn't have the ability on the edge to really shake down the run. Right when you're on the edge playing against the run, you need to really make sure that you hold that outside contain. Something he kind of struggled with. I don't know if it was because of his length or because he didn't do it a lot. Because one thing I will mention, he did have a ton of sacks. A lot of those sacks came when he was pushed and condensed down on the line of scrimmage, playing in like that 3-tech technique and going up against interior offensive linemen who just aren't as good as exterior. I mean, as those bookend tackles. So just something to keep in mind. Still think it's a great pick here. They're super shallow on the front seven there, especially on the D-line position, as Andrew kind of mentioned. But just something to keep in mind, boomer bust, in my opinion. He's a big boomer bust guy. He's a guy that can come in and really produce if he does. And then there's a chance where we may see him out of the league here because he's just, again, super raw. There's a lot of question marks with him still.
And a big thing, if I could add one more thing just to that real fast about being like the players being raw, a big thing we're going to see too is like, these players are obviously juniors, most of them coming out. Some of them are going to be seniors that we talk about. And like when you get later into the draft too, but some of them, yeah, this guy, so he's a sophomore, but he redshirted. So he didn't play his freshman year, like we mentioned. Sure. A lot of guys are only giving one full year of college, like football play. And then, like guys like Jamar Chase, and then like they opted out of the 2020 season or weren't able to play because of injury or something. So a lot of these guys are kind of going to be raw in this draft. And that could just be, let that be known just kind of for like the picks going forward a little bit, because that could affect like how teams like draft going forward and such.
Last thing I'll say about Rousseau here, since he is so freaking tall, 6'7", and he has like good speed, I think where he could maybe excel too is like off the edge, and then like if you have to like do an RPO against him, I think you're like in a nightmare situation. And a lot of quarterbacks, well, not a lot of quarterbacks, but some successful quarterbacks will run the RPO. I know Patrick Mahomes loves the run pass option there too. So maybe. I mean, I know they don't play in the same division, but Miami might be a playoff team next year, and so watch out, Kansas City. Okay, so let's move on to the Tennessee Titans.
We see them. We got it.
We'll see you there. We'll be there. We'll see you there.
Let's move on to the Tennessee Titans now. They see you too. We have their needs as wide receiver, right tackle, cornerback. To include into that mix, PFF has them also needing a guard. Our pick here for them is a wide receiver. We have him actually going a little bit down this list. We have him taking Kadarius Toney out of Florida.
What is going on with some of these rankings? Bateman is above Kadarius Toney?
Well, Kadarius Toney is also just had an excellent pro day, so he also did really well for himself in that regard, moving up a lot of people's boards. And a lot of this is just like, the roller coaster of hype. We still have a few weeks until the draft. So we're going to kind of we'll see Toney rise, and maybe we'll see Bateman fall a little bit. And but yeah.
Seems questionable to me.
So last year, Kadarius Toney had 984 yards, 10 touchdowns, 70 receptions. Of those 70 receptions, 21 of those went for 20-plus yards. He was a senior, so he actually did play out most of his career in Florida. 5'11", 190-pound frame. You guys want to talk about why you like him? Those are some of his logistics.
Corey Davis is on the Jets now. Corey Davis ran, I think, probably 60% of his routes, I'd say, from the slot. Kadarius Toney's going to come in. He's going to play in the slot right away. They brought in Josh Reynolds. Besides A.J. Brown and Josh Reynolds, their next wide receiver is Nick Westbrook. Okay? You have Ryan Tannehill. Okay? You need to give him another weapon. I mean, Toney is super dynamic. And again, it plays a ton out of the slot. Huh?
I was going to say, they can definitely use him out of the slot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a great route runner, has a great feel for defenses. So, I mean, if there's one thing they love to do in Tennessee, man, it's play action to the big dog and then let that over route from the slot run all the way. They literally just take the over route from the slot and just run them across the field. And sign Toney up for that. He's going to be able to fill those voids if they're in zone coverage. If they're man, good luck keeping up with them. He's got great foot speed, great dynamic short area burst. He ran a great cone drill speed. So, Toney, I think he's the best. I think he's the best available player at a position of need So I think Tennessee this is a no-brainer. Do they want to address the defense? Sure, they do. But they did go ahead and get Bud Dupree and Danico Autry, who should be good additions to that front seven and should bring some pass rushing ability. So I don't think you need to reach here. Again, best player, position you need. I think you go for it.
I think they could also – Kadarius Toney could be a punt returner or kick returner too into that repertoire because he has like some of that tackling – breaking tackle like kind of speed where he can kind of like shift on you real quick. He might not be like the quickest guy like running down the field, but he has like some of that immediate quickness that is nice when you're returning a punt or returning a kickoff. You have anything on Toney here, Andrew?
No, I mean you guys are kind of wrapped it up for him. He's just got unbelievable change of pace and change of direction, solid size and speed for kind of everything you want out of a slot receiver. I think he's going to pair just nicely with AJ Brown on the other side. You got to help out. You got to help with your quarterback. Coaches know that. And as much as Mike Ribble's a defensive minded guy, he knows that he's got to get somebody else aside from Josh Reynolds opposite AJ Brown if he really wants this team to be successful. They could look at offensive tackle or they could look at an offensive lineman later in the draft. It's deep for that. They could look at wide receiver later. Not wide receiver. I'm sorry. They could look at filling other needs later in the draft too. Deep draft. So Kadarius, he's really good. People rave about his movement. Like that was the one thing, like when he was at the Senior Bowl, he has like this really, really unique movement and like this kind of like almost like I've only heard like people call it like a wiggle to it, like like you say like a receiver has like kind of like a little bit of wiggle to them, like Travis Kelce or George Kittle. I know those are tight ends, but he's a receiver who kind of has that little bit of a wiggle, who kind of can really be deceiving in the terms of like what kind of routes he's running, and if he can polish those off, he's going to be a really good slot receiver. No,
they mentioned it about him, and then another guy we'll talk about, Elijiah Moore. A lot of these receivers and the good ones talk about it. Stephon Diggs has talked about it. Justin Jefferson has talked about it. They don't look at it on the outside when they're on one-on-one matchups versus corners like football. They think of it like basketball, and they're being like in isolation trying to cross these dudes up. That's why the footwork we've seen from a lot of these wide receivers coming in has been absolutely impeccable. And that's something that Toney has been talked about, is really good at. That short area burst, that short area foot speed. It allows them to create that separation. Same thing with Elijah, who we'll talk about here in a little bit.
We will. We have him going off the board fairly soon. So the Jets are on the clock now. So we have the Jets on the board here. This is their second pick of the round. They have Seattle's pick here. They traded away Jamal Adams last year and picked up Seattle's draft position here in the first round. We have the Jets having needs at offensive line, defensive line, cornerback. So we have them taking Jayson Oweh. So I'll draft him here. Penn State edge rusher. He was a redshirt sophomore, 6'5", 250-ish pounds. Last year he had 38 tackles, 0 sacks, which is a little maybe potential production he has to work on. 6.5 tackles were for loss. What do you guys like about Oweh here to the Jets?
He's got great size and great speed for the position. He's another one of these guys that's a bit of a raw talent. He's only been playing football since 2016. The one thing I really like is that from 2019 to 2020, he saw his run defense grade, and this is something that Jay touched on about being an edge defender in the NFL. You really want to set that edge and you basically funnel the run game towards the middle of the field and be able to and also be able to make tackles. That's why he was able to make 6.5 tackles for loss, because you set the edge and then you make the tackles behind the line of scrimmage. He did a really good job of that. Getting back to his grade, his run defense grade actually improved from a 59.5 in 2019 to an 89.7 in 2020. So huge jump. Again, raw talent, but he's 250 pounds, 6'5". Robert Saleh loves to, if from his days back in San Francisco, you saw how like what's the word I'm looking for? How productive he was able to be with his defensive line. Obviously he had guys like Nick Bosa and DeForest Buckner and Solomon Thomas over there, but he gets his guy here to kind of start the rebuild of this Jets defense in his first year there. So Jayson Oweh is a pretty solid pick here. Might be surprised if he's actually still here late in the draft, but he is in ours, so we'll take him here.
I mean, in my mock, I don't even have him in the first round. I just didn't see him up there. They do have Quentin Williams, so that's a good little pairing there to improve the defensive line. When you look at the New York Jets last season, their 2 outside corners, if you look at just their corner rankings on the outside, they were the worst position group in football for the outside corner position. So I personally have them taking in my mock drafts Greg Newsome II, cornerback out of Northwestern. Super intelligent, super smart, ball hawk, 6'1" corner. Robert Saleh loves to run a lot of single high safety stuff, which means if you're out there on the corner, you better be able to cover. And Greg Newsome can definitely do that. 20 pass breakups over the last 2 seasons. He's a guy who I think can come in there and make a difference right away for a defense that's been pretty awful. They'll get CJ Mosley back. Like I said, they have Quentin Williams. So yeah, I think having Greg Newsome there, I think that's the guy to go with for me personally. But Oweh makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I think with going offense with the Jets' first pick, I think Robert Saleh will go defense for the second pick, whether that is shoring up some line help on the defensive end or helping out with his secondary. Jay brings up a great point there of being maybe getting his long-term captain in the secondary position would be another potential pick for them there. So we have the Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock. I wrote down a bunch of needs for them. Quarterback, this is probably Ben Roethlisberger's last year. Edge, left tackle, linebacker, cornerback, as well as PFF has them needing a guard as well. So we have them taking a tackle here. We have them taking Teven Jenkins from Oklahoma State. I think when we were doing our mock here, I think we have him as the highest rated tackle left on the board, and then the Steelers are pretty I think they're pretty good about building their lines, and they plug him in and play with him right away. Who wants to talk about Teven Jenkins though?
Yeah, I have him in my mock, so I can talk about him just for a minute. He's one of, he played for Oklahoma State. He's a really big bodied, really solid player. He played a lot of right tackle. He was voted first team all conference in 2020 for his play. He's kind of versatile. They used him at right tackle and left tackle. He only played 1 game at left tackle in 2020 and 6 at right tackle. But played a little more balance in 2019 with like a little more of an even distribution of how much time he played at those positions. When you look at what they have to do for their offensive line, they lost Alejandro Villanueva. Marquise Pouncey retired. Jay and I talked about it before we got on screen. David DeCastro, one of their starting guards, is going to be a free agent in 2021 after this next season. So I think this is a really good fit. He's the most talented offensive tackle left on the board. If you're going to have Big Ben as your quarterback, I don't advocate for that personally, but the Steelers obviously do. If you're going to have Big Ben as your quarterback, you're going to want to make sure he's protected. And the top 4 of these offensive tackles are pretty darn good in the first round. So I think they grab him here and then maybe address needs elsewhere. So.
Yeah, why don't you tell Big Ben to find a gym somewhere?
Agreed, 100%. But
I have the same sentiment as you guys, just a little bit of a different take. I have them taking Landon Dickerson, the center from Alabama. We talked about it a little bit. He has gone through some bouts with injuries throughout his college career. I was really tempted to go Najee Harris. James Conner, it looks like he's running in quicksand like all the time, dude. Like when we talk about Zeke always running forward, this dude is always down. I've never seen a running back fall as much as this dude does. And it doesn't fall forward, so it's not good. But you mentioned that they lost Marquise Pouncey. Dickerson comes in and is the day 1 starter at center, shores up a position of need, and he can also play some guard, so he has some flexibility there in case you do find a center. A little high in the draft for an interior offensive lineman, but I think this dude is just that good. Put on a show at Alabama every time he was able to play. Real good size, was able to handle bull rushes really well. So as a center, that's one of the big things, right? Someone puts that nose tackle right in your beak, you better be able to handle him coming down your throat. Big boy, able to do that. Also super athletic, more athletic than you think for his size. So he's going to be a problem if he gets up to the second level on these linebackers. So I was thinking Najee Harris because Mike Tomlin has been stressing the fact that he wants to start running the football. Getting a running back is great, but if you don't have an offensive lineman, you ain't running the football no matter who you got back there. So definitely think Dickerson is an option. Jenkins, I have him coming off the board a little later to a team, pretty good, Kansas City. We'll talk about it. But, like both picks there.
I think Dickerson is the more risky of the plays just because of his injury history. But I think he rounds out athletically a little bit more than Jenkins here. Jenkins being a little bit more like versatile on the line, a little bit more reliable because I think he played 3 years in the league if I'm in college, if I remember correctly. So he's probably just a little bit safer of a pick. I don't know if Pittsburgh. I don't know if I think they draft pretty well, so maybe they'll read the tea leaves and pick Dickerson there. But a couple of good options. They definitely need some line help though, because Ben Roethlisberger, although he was successful with the last season, I don't know if he can keep up like the snap the ball and then less than 2 seconds later he's already got the ball out of his hand. So
I'll put it this way: if Drew Lock wasn't the first pick overall of Team Cheeks, Ben Roethlisberger would be number 2.
There's some cheeky guys out there.
At this stage of his career,
are we doing like an all eating team? You do like an all eating team, then that makes more sense. You put him right there with the offensive lineman. Dude, go to a gym, huh? You go to a gym, work on it a little bit. You're a professional football player. You're a quarterback with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Figure it out. Good Lord. A little swing pass or something.
Figure it out.
Jenny Craig.
So we have Jacksonville on the clock now. They already took Trevor Lawrence with the first pick. No breaking news there. We have their needs listed as tight end, defensive end, safety, as well as possibly some tackle help. PFF has that as well. We have them taking Trevon Moehrig here, so the top safety on the board, which might not fall this far, coming up in this draft, but we have Trevon going there. Why is Trevon going to be a good fit with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Urban Meyer?
Well, they kind of helped themselves in free agency, getting Shaquille Griffin, and then last year they drafted C.J. Henderson, who ended up being a real nice acquisition. So their bookend corners are pretty solid. They do need some help at the safety position right now. They have Rayshawn Jenkins, who played a lot, but he's more of a in-the-box safety. Trevon Moehrig has the capability to play center field, free safety type of position where he's able to make plays on the ball. Super rangy, has great feel for the game, is able to move laterally really well, sideline to sideline, and cover a lot of ground, which is really important when you're looking at free safeties. I mean, you have to be able to move. You have to be able to get on your horse if you're in that high cover one, and you got a corner who gets beat. You better get your arse over there and be the over-the-top defender, baby. And Moehrig has that type of ball, that type of range to get over there. In 2019 was the last full season he played, 76 tackles, 4 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and he just jumps off the tape. When you watch him, you got a nose for the football, which is what you need for a safety. Also a pretty good hitter, too. So if you think you're just going to go through alleys as a running back, you better think twice, because Moehrig is coming to lay the wood. And out of Northwestern, or no, out of TCU, I'm sorry. Out of TCU. Mm-hmm. So, just a good all-around safety. I think that there's a possibility, like Asa mentioned, that he goes a little higher. I really don't know how much higher, though. I think that's a good fit for them over there in Jacksonville.
Yeah, so he plays well. I like the free safety take there. I think he can, rummage around the field pretty well. He can tackle. I think he can also he'll also be useful for blitzing too. I think he can run up to a running back and knock his ass down a little bit. I think he fits like the modern NFL pretty well. He's athletic. I mean, he's a little skinny, if anything. Like that might, just maybe like his build's not built out as much as maybe it could be, and that it might be hard for him to play single coverage. But with that in mind, he could fit into his system pretty well.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's just they would love to take a tackle here probably for Trevor Lawrence, or they would love to take an edge rusher, and maybe they go that route. But I think the best ones for first round talent are kind of off the board here for Urban Meyer. So you take a guy who's just going to help that back end. It needs all the help it can get. If you've watched Jacksonville Jaguars games, and you probably haven't because they stink. So they've been bad, but at least you haven't seen it. So maybe they'll be good, and you'll see that.
We play a DFS, so we watch everybody.
That's true. That's true. I mean, the average viewer, I wouldn't blame them had they not watched it. But he graded up above 77 every year since he was a freshman. Started every season. Just a very a veteran, good presence. And Jay mentioned all the free safety stuff. He'll fit in nicely with Rayshawn Jenkins there because he's he led all safeties in FBS the last 2 seasons in pass breakups, with 8 of those coming last season, and only allowed a 51% completion percentage. So center fielder definitely in play for Trevon Moehrig, and I think Jacksonville gets a really good football player.
Wow, you really helped out my take there, buddy. Boy.
Came out of nowhere. A little bit.
Now you see me. So we have the Cleveland Browns on the clock now. So we have their needs as defensive line, cornerback, wide receiver. PFF also has their needs as edge rusher and linebacker. We have them taking Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia here, the redshirt sophomore, 6'3", 240 pounds. Last year had 30 tackles, 11 and a half of those were for loss, and a nice 8.5 sacks. Why do we like Azeez Ojulari here, guys?
He made his name a little bit when he was invited to the Senior Bowl by constantly screaming from what people said, quote, if you beat the hands, you beat the man. And people are grading him out as one of the most polished pure pass rushing prospects in this class. He earned a 91.7 pass rushing grade in 2020. I think he'll fit in just nicely with already dominant Myles Garrett on the other side of the Cleveland Browns line. The one thing that gives you a little worry, he's a little undersized for the position. He's only 6'3" and 240 pounds, and I mentioned that earlier as being some of the edge rushers coming out of the draft are going to be around this size. But it just means that they're super explosive and good at getting the quarterback. But that the weight maybe is something they put on later. But we've seen guys like most recently Brian Burns was drafted last year to the Panthers and was one of the better players drafted out of the first round, and he was basically the same build as Azeez Ojulari will be coming in at 6'3", 240. And then another guy who just joined the Raiders, Yannick Ngakoue. They've posted similar measurables, and they've obviously been really good standout players in the NFL. So I think if he can get to the right team, which I think he can in Cleveland, he'll fit in just fine.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I have been going a different route. Jeremiah Owusu is still on the board, which is kind of egregious. I think they're sprinting to the board to try to get Jeremiah Owusu. Their inside linebacker depth is absolutely atrocious. Right now, Anthony Walker is their starting middle linebacker. Owusu is a 3-down linebacker off ball, does everything, literally everything. He'll never have to leave the field. Sideline to sideline, ran 4.45. Dude makes tackles. Dude can cover in the pass game in man or in zone, has great feel. Super explosive. He's a perfect fit for today's NFL, where everything is getting more college style, where we're widening, right? Everything's going out, right? The field's getting spread out. We're pulling guys into jet sweep motion. There are very few, like we're going to talk about a guy like Bolton, who I have my reservations on. If we get to an outside zone play, I'm a little worried that homeboy's not going to have the juice in the caboose to get over there. You ain't got to worry about that, Owusu. This dude is literally primo 3-down linebacker. Never has to get off the field. And I think Cleveland is licking their chops to go get homeboy right now. So that's just my opinion. I'm not sure where we have him going. We have him coming up here soon. So, yeah, we'll talk about him. But
we have him coming off the board fairly soon. But, yeah, we kind of have him at the end of the first round. Like we said, I think the combination of, Myles Garrett and Azeez would be nice. But yeah, like Andrew said, he's a little small. So yeah, maybe the safer pick is Owusu here. With that being said, let's move on to our next pick. We have the Baltimore Ravens on the clock. We have them with a need for edge rusher, a right tackle, and a wide receiver. And that kind of is what PFF has them going for too. In this pick, we chose Terrace Marshall Jr. As the guy because we like the fit there. To talk a little bit more about that, I'll throw it to one of these guys in a sec, but let me just he's a junior. He is 6'4", 200 pounds. Last season, he had 731 yards, 10 touchdowns with 48 catches, and 10 of his receptions were for over 20 yards, so some big play potential there out of LSU. Jay, I know you like Terrace a lot. Why?
Well, I like my boy Lamar Jackson and would love it if they gave him someone else besides Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews. Last year, when your second and third snaps played at outside receiver are Des Bryant and Miles Boykin, you probably need to address something. They went and got Sammy Watkins. That's great and all. He's been on the Chiefs for the last few years. Dude's always injured. Hasn't played a full 16-game season since his rookie year in 2014. The Baltimore Ravens, this is freaking ridiculous. They're the only team in the NFL last year to not have a 2,000-yard receiving yards from their outside wide receivers. They weren't like barely scraping it. They had 1,726. Okay, wow. So when you have that poor of a showing from your receiver, I mean, this is almost as bad. Andrew, you remember back in the day when the Chiefs could not get a wide receiver touchdown to save their lives?
We went literally a full season and then some. We didn't get it until
it was like 19
actually
games.
Yeah, we didn't get it until the following. It was the season with Alex Smith, 2017. We didn't get it until the following season, 4 games in against the Packers, and it was Jeremy Maclin when we were getting the brakes beaten off of us in freaking Green Bay.
Yeah, so I mean, I've already talked about it a few times. Bring Hollywood Brown into the slot, bro. You want to know who you throw outside? You put a guy out there who's 6'4", like freaking Marshall. Okay, dude, 6'4", as Asa mentioned. It is 2 years in college football. He had 23 touchdowns, averaged 15.2 yards per carry. So he's gonna give you everything. He makes contested catches. He's good at the line of scrimmage. He has good yak ability, and he scores touchdowns. If Lamar Jackson can't throw it to the outside, that's one thing. Give him an opportunity to throw it. When I got Boykin and Des Bryant on the outside, I'm not throwing it that way either. I'll just run it. That's what he did.
He only played 7 games last season too, and because he opted out, so his numbers there would have also increased. He was there. He was LSU's number 1 guy. He was a former 5-star recruit as well, so highly sought after. And I think he's being slept on. So I like the value pick here for Baltimore. I just hope that they don't, send him out to just run around in an empty desert while they just run the ball till every one of us just turns off the TV and stops, watching their games. Because not that it isn't fun and exciting, but they're probably like the last team to push that ball in the air. So, anyways,
only team in NFL history with 3 1,000-yard rushers last year.
It's crazy. I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's a good stat, but
it's impressive. But
they lost in the second round of the playoffs. So whatever.
I play a Lamar DFS stack every week, so I'm watching Lamar because I got money on homeboy every week. Just talk about. If you ever have a question about DFS, just real quick, I'm just going to talk for a second. Ever have a question about DFS? Get a Patrick Mahomes stack, get a Josh Allen stack, get a Lamar stack. You probably make some money. Not a bad way to go.
Yeah, definitely. So the Saints are on the clock now. We have them with their needs at cornerback, defensive line, edge rusher, wide receiver, as well as PFF has them, needing a linebacker too. So we had mentioned them a little earlier, but we have Elijiah Moore going here to the Saints. They did lose. They had to cut a bunch of players on their team because they were over the cap. One of the players that they didn't bring back. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on his name?
Manuel Sanders. He's with your boys now.
Yeah, Manuel Sanders. I'll just cut this out. Don't worry. Just kidding. I won't. It's been a when you're doing all this research on these rookies, and sometimes the current NFL players just kind of slip out of your head, and you forget that your team signed them.
All is forgiven.
Okay. So yeah, well, thank you. You're too kind.
In ours here, do they not? And I have Owusu gone. You don't think they go Owusu over Moore? Now I know this is off the topic because we were just gonna go straight to Moore, but what do y'all think? I'm just genuinely curious because I have Owusu off. I think if Owusu go there's a chance that they go Owusu instead of Moore.
Cards on the table. I just kind of like at a certain point I forgot about Jeremiah Owusu-Koromoah, and then when I got down to the back end of the draft, I was like, I don't really like the fits here. I had a couple other guys that I kind of liked. I just wasn't too well. I wasn't as well versed as I would have liked to be as him on a player. I was focusing more on the edge, specifically Jayson Oweh from Penn State and not Jeremiah Owusu. So that's the only reason why. But I think they're both good picks. But I have Elijiah Moore. Elijah Moore here is a really good pick as well.
That's who I have too. But
so they have Michael Thomas, but they got rid of Emmanuel Sanders. They have Marshawn Lattimore, but they got rid of Janoris Jenkins. They have Cam Jordan, but they got rid of Trey Hendrickson. So some of their depth that they had last season that served them really well has kind of fizzled out. So I think they're going to fill to their top their depth. So I think Owusu or Elijiah Moore would probably been the pick here. I think we're in that realm. It's offense or defense, however they, whatever their vision is for the first round, is what is what they're going to go with. So, anyways, Elijiah Moore, Ole Miss wide receiver, who was a junior, 5'9", 190-ish pounds. Last season, he played 8 games, 1,193 yards, 8 touchdowns, 86 receptions, and of those 86, 16 were for 20 plus yards. So some nice, big play potential there. Let you guys talk about Elijiah Moore, but I think he's a natural playmaker on the offense. He's quick, versatile, and he's got pretty decent hands. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, the hands kind of jump out at you. He made a lot of tough contested catches in his time at Ole Miss, especially for someone who's an absolute just like stud of a slot receiver. He's really good off the line of scrimmage. His break off the line is pretty outstanding for a guy his size. He's going to break a lot of tackles. If there's one thing I know about Elijiah Moore, over the last 2 seasons, he has 31 broken tackles, which are the most in the SEC. Speaking of those tough catches that he made, 22 of 39 balls that were contested in his career, he caught. So basically, more than half the time, if he was going up for a contested ball against an SEC defender, he was bringing it down. So I think it'd be a nice fit here for New Orleans. You got Michael Thomas. Hopefully he's back nice and healthy. Don't draft him 4th overall like I did. Cry.
No, you can. Jameis Winston's a quarterback, so don't worry.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. And I think just to add to Jay's take about Jameis Winston throwing the ball to the other team, I think you want to draft more players who can catch the ball for your team. In this situation, if Jameis is going to be on your team, otherwise he's going to throw it to the other team. So
there's probably good sense there.
The only thing that I want to mention about the Saints is I read some article that they really like Tre'Quan Smith, and they really think that he's going to be able to elevate as wide receiver 2 for Michael Thomas, behind Michael Thomas. But I think I think you got to be real here. Tre'Quan Smith, in every game I think he played last season, in place of Michael Thomas, he didn't wow anybody crazily. So I don't like that as a replacement. I like them going with the wide receiver here. You have anything on Elijiah Moore before we move on, Jay?
Just he's unbelievable. Second in college football in catches and yards behind one guy, Devontae Smith, who's pretty unbelievable in himself. Just a battler, dude. I mean, he's a guy who's not the biggest guy, not the most athletically gifted, but a great short area quickness, plays a lot out of the slot. Michael Thomas does like to operate a lot out of the slot as well, and Jameis Winston is going to throw for 5,000 yards like he did with Tampa, right, before he came to New Orleans. So, yeah, good pick. I like it.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so the Green Bay Packers are on the board now. Last year, notoriously took Jordan Love and A.J. Dillon to a degree and barely played the guys. Well, Jordan Love for obvious reasons. I think A.J. Dillon, everybody wanted to see quads get into that game. But anyways, so we have him with needs as cornerback, defensive end, wide receiver. Nope, I'm reading the wrong one. Wide receiver, cornerback, defensive tackle, and linebacker. And then this is where we have Jeremiah Owusu-Koromoah going from Notre Dame, the linebacker. Probably not going to drop this low if we're being honest with ourselves. Why do we like Owusu here?
I have Nick Bolton going here. So I talked about Jeremiah Owusu and his 3-down ability, super athletic. Green Bay would be absolutely ecstatic if they were able to get him here. I clearly don't think he's going to be here. I think even I had him a little bit undervalued. He'll probably go a little bit higher than I had him. I think I had him going like 21. I think Nick Bolton's a pick. Nick Bolton is another guy who can play all 3 downs. I do worry about his lateral quickness. That's something that he struggled with because he has a little bit of a smaller linebacker. He's a great run stopper. The one thing that we know how to do, this dude thumps, bro. Good luck coming in between the A's with homeboy there, sitting in the middle of the field there. So I think that's a great pick for them here with Nick Bolton, guy out of Mizzou, interior linebacker who's going to be a staple in that defense if they draft him. I think he's a solid player, not a ridiculously high ceiling, especially at linebacker, but there's very few holes that Green Bay has. Interior linebacker is one of them. So
I'll talk a little bit about Owusu here. Yeah, Nick Bolton can easily go in the first round too. It might be, one of those positions, he might be one of those players that just is the best available on the board at the end of this draft right here, at the end of this first round, and maybe goes to one of those later teams too. Owusu is a senior. He's 6'2", 215 pounds, kind of has to me like Jamal Adams-esque like body build and play style. He had 62 tackles last season. 11 of those were for loss and 1.5 sacks. He's got good instincts and coverage, so he can follow the ball pretty well. He can change direction. He's explosive. You watch some of the tape. I think he's probably like, when we talk about like raw talent, he has like a lot that he can still provide. Not necessarily that he's a raw player, but that he has like a lot of raw talent. And I think he, for what like the tape looks like, he just plays at full throttle. He started, I think, every game in 2019 as well, and had like I think 5.5 sacks that season. So he likes to play behind the line. He can play a little pass coverage too. The knock on him is that he's like kind of an in-betweener. They call him tweeners or whatever. So like, he might not necessarily like have a team that likes him because of his size and where he is on the field. So I think you have to like have a coach who's set on making him, fit to a scheme really well. And I think he would excel in a really good scheme. So smart defensive game plan. Like I could see him doing really well in several teams. Some of these more successful teams. But yeah, do you have anything on Owusu, Andrew, before we move on?
No, not here. You guys got it all. Yep. So
Nick Bolton or Owusu. Jay likes Nick Bolton a lot. We don't have Nick Bolton going in the first round, so thank you for sharing that take, Jay. So we have
Owusu's just way off the board by this time for me. So
yeah. We have the Buffalo Bills here with needs on their defensive line. Potentially a cornerback to just make their secondary even more stacked, and then offensive line potential depth. As we talk about the Bills, Chiefs, and Bucks here, they're pretty much just filling in,
pretty good.
Not necessarily filling in holes here, but just getting in more depth as much as they can. So we have Newsome going here, Greg Newsome the second out of Northwestern. Who might not fall this far either. So I think if the Bills get Newsome here, they'll be excited. He was a junior out of Northwestern, 6'1", 190 pounds. Kind of has some comps to like Marcus Peters. Last season had 12 tackles, 1 interception, 9 pass breakups. He has like he's been like kind of called like go gadget. So he's got some nice arm movement, so to speak, in that sense. He's got, like for a defensive back, 6'1" is a pretty good length. He's quick. He can play coverage pretty well as well. I think the knock on him is potential durability. He missed 8 games his freshman year, and then a few his sophomore year. Again, college football is kind of hard to, it's hard to judge a player based off of the games they played. You just kind of have to look at their tape, and if you like the guy, you like the guy. I just like him for his instincts on defense, and I think he can play coverage really well. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I think he'd be really good opposite Trey White. You already have a stud over there. I mean, it should just make that secondary that's already been getting better and, on the rise that much better. All the traits that you mentioned, he's long, smooth, and quick. And one thing that a lot of people mentioned with a lot of the scouts that mentioned with this guy, nobody can match him in terms of his ability to flip his hips with as quickly as he does. So he plays with real good suddenness, and he reacts to the ball very well. So like you mentioned, he's super instinctive. Those traits allowed him to only in the 6 games that he played in 2020, he only allowed 12 passes for 93 yards. And in those 10 games as well, in those 6 games, I'm sorry, he had 1 interception and a team high 10 pass breakups, which was good enough to get him, even though again, 6 games he only played. He was 3rd team Associated Press All-American, and he made the first team All Big Ten. Again, only played in 6 games, but made his impact very well known. And if Buffalo can grab him up here, I had him going at 20. So if Buffalo can grab him here at 30, I mean, that's going to be, I hate you, Buffalo, but it's good. It's a good pick. It's a good pick. I'll say that. It's really good if they can get him here.
Yeah, I had him going 23 to the Jets. He didn't have a ton of interceptions, but you love to see the pass breakups. They're going to come. If you play, anyone who played football plays defense. You know that's something that will come along with the territory there. I had the Buffalo Bills taking Najee Harris, which is probably a huge no-no for me as a Chiefs fan. But when you look at them, they finished 20th in rushing last year after finishing 9th in 2019. Neither Singletary or Moss had a 100-yard rushing game last year, and I get it. Josh Allen's unbelievable, but you like to have some blend. I mean, when the playoffs were coming, you see teams like the Chiefs and the Bills just want to air it out because their best players holding the ball when they air it out. So it makes sense, but Najee Harris is a pretty gosh darn good running back. Led the FBS in missed tackles last season. 2020, he had 1,466 rushing yards, 26 touchdowns, 3 down back too. Catches the ball out of the backfield. Last 2 seasons, he had 70 receptions for 11 touchdowns. So I think getting Najee Harris would be a great move for Buffalo. Hopefully they don't.
A lot of teams are kind of linked to Najee Harris. I think we're looking at this board too. I think we could have made a case for Steelers. We could have made a case for the Dolphins. Maybe even the Jags. I mean, no, they like James Robinson. There was a couple of guys that would probably want Najee Harris. Who knows? Maybe someone jumps up from the beginning of the second round to try to get Najee Harris. We're gonna do as a Buffalo Bills fan. I don't know. I'm a little worried because Josh just wants the effing ball and he wants to just take it and get it to his guy. So, but what I do like about Najee is he can catch the ball too. So I would not be mad at that pick at all. So we have the Kansas City Chiefs on the board. I'm not going to let these guys talk about the Chiefs. I'll just handle this. No, I'm just kidding. So we have I'm just messing. So we have if you watched the Super Bowl last year, the Chiefs needed some help on the offensive line. So that's where we have this pick going. They also lost Sammy Watkins this year. So that's a potential other area where, maybe the team looks to go to, but with Patrick Mahomes being your quarterback, he can elevate a third string or a fourth string wide receiver with whom doesn't have the highest skill set. So we have Samuel Cosmi, the Texas tackle, going here to the Chiefs. I'll let these guys talk about Cosmi though.
Yeah, I love Samuel Cosmi here from Texas. If the Chiefs decide to go the offensive tackle route, I know Jay had Teven Jenkins I know we took Teven Jenkins earlier, but I think he liked the fit a little bit more. Can't really go wrong with either one of them. What I'll say about Sam Cosmi is that what scouts are saying, he's one of the best natural, just pure athletes in the draft. He was a 3-year starter for Texas and can definitely just come into the NFL and step into a starting role immediately for a team like you mentioned, the Chiefs, that could absolutely, really use it. They've made some interior offensive line moves, but nothing yet on the outside. So this would be something that's that I would really, really like to see happen if he's on the board. His ability to mirror defenders is super exceptional. At Texas, he was able to hold his own against really good talent all the time, and in the 3 years that he was there, he's pretty prototypical size when it comes to the measurables. 6'6", 315 pounds. What I really like are his huge hands. He's got 10.25-inch hands, which allows him to have a really, really solid punch, and that's something that was noticed a lot at his pro day. Speaking of his pro day, everything that you wanted out of a left tackle, all of the gradings and everything, he graded in the 90th percentile in every major category. It came to the kick step and punching ability and and mobility on the line. So I like that a lot. And the athleticism goes pretty far. If you want to go do a little searching, he caught a 12-yard screen pass. I can't remember who it was against, but I mean the guy cut back and then hopped over and did a little half moonsault. At 315 pounds. It was pretty nice. So we threw a touchdown to Eric Fisher last year against the Baltimore Ravens. So, let's keep him going with left tackles. Keep throwing go ahead and take Sam Cosmi, maybe get another touchdown. I don't know. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as Andrew mentioned, I had Teven Jenkins. I have him drop it a little bit more just due to some of the guys that we've seen go in the later part of the draft, going a little higher, in my opinion. As Andrew kind of mentioned, he's pretty similar to Samuel Cosmi, to be honest. He's a guy that's ready to come in, 3-year player over there at Oklahoma State. So swing tackle guy too, played right tackle and left tackle, as Andrew mentioned a little earlier. One of the questions with him about playing in the tackle position going to the NFL is he does have shorter arms, and he doesn't do a great job of having great range and mobility side to side laterally. But he does have a great kick step. which is huge in the NFL, and he's really good at mirroring, who Andrew kind of mentioned. Cosmi does a lot of the same things. Andrew kind of has me on Cosmi right now. But I have Teven Jenkins still on the board. I think that his versatility, being able to play both tackles, being a little bigger than Cosmi, I think that's what ultimately sells the Chiefs on Jenkins there at number 31.
Cool. To round out the draft, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the board. Right now, they brought back pretty much everybody. So they're looking – we just have them taking their best player potentially on the board. One of the players that we like that is still on the board is Zaven Collins. So we have a linebacker out of Tulsa going here. He is a redshirt junior, 6'4", 260 pounds. Last season in 8 games, he had 53 tackles, 11 and a half of those were for loss, and 4 sacks. He's kind of regarded for his, being big, athletic, and versatile. And he can cover, play the run, and get after the passer. So I think he would be a nice fit for them, rummaging around on the field wherever they want him to. I think the knock on him right now is he, from what I've kind of read, is he doesn't necessarily have like a potential fit right now to like teams. So like no one's really linking him to a team, I guess you could say. But he's got quick feet. He can cover like a short area pretty quickly, and I think he can drop into coverage and play to the line pretty well. So he might rank out in better as a coverage linebacker. But do you guys have any thoughts on Zaven Collins here?
Yeah, I do, and I'll link him to Tampa Bay because I think that's the best fit for him. He's a 3-4. They play a 3-4 defense over there in Tampa Bay, so that fits in right where he was playing over there in Tulsa. He has over a 90 PFF grade in both against the run and the pass, something that you don't really see from outside linebackers. Super athletic too. Outside linebackers are normally guys who get after the pass. 3-4 defensive outside linebackers are a little more harder to come by because they're asked to do a lot in this 3-4 defense, right? A lot of times they're asked to play off the line of scrimmage in the box. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they're asked to play on the line of scrimmage and come after the passer. A lot of times right there from that line of scrimmage position out there on like a 7 tech, they're asked to go and cover the flat and get into the skiff area. Play man on tight ends. So, you don't want to be doing that a lot anymore with some of these freaky tight ends that we see nowadays, but you can see all the ability to do that in Collins. His last season, he had 54 tackles, 4 sacks, and 4 picks. So that was in 8 games. So in 8 games, he's giving you every game is giving you either a sack or a pick, which is, again, something that's in rare air for outside linebackers nowadays. I hate to see him go to Tampa because gosh darn it, they beat us in the Super Bowl, and I don't want them getting any more help than they already don't need. And again, lastly, they do have JPP and Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett is only like about 29. JPP is a little bit on the older side. He'll be a free agent in 2022. So after this season, so you bring in Collins, you let him come sit for a season, figure out the scheme, how he fits into the defense, and then he overtakes that, and then you get a little bit of a salary cap relief there. That would be my thought process if I was over there in Tampa.
Yeah, when I was watching him on tape a little bit too, he kind of reminded me of one of my Buffalo Bills, Tremaine Edmonds, a little bit. Yeah, Tremaine kind of Tremaine's versatile and can play a little bit of everywhere on the field. So, if they can get a Tremaine Edmonds kind of out of this pick, then they would be overjoyed. Just for what it's worth, Barrymore out of Alabama, Rashad Bateman we don't have going in the first round.
I think he's rated a little too high, man. Asante Samuel is a guy that we were looking at. We had him connected to a few teams.
You liked Nick Bolton a lot. Rondell Moore is another name that people like for, I think, his ability to play, like kick returns and stuff. Alex Leatherwood is a tackle out of Alabama, plus Landon Dickerson out of Alabama that
I mentioned him.
Might jump up.
First day starter at center, wherever he goes. Dude is that talented. Again, Asa did a good job of mentioning the injury history, which is something that's scary. Travis Etienne, Andrew knows, I've been on Travis Etienne since he was a sophomore at freaking Clemson. This dude is going to be a stud. Where he's going to go somewhere Hopefully, right? Hopefully this isn't like a DeAndre Swift situation where we get shanghaied every darn year with Adrian Peterson and Kerryon Johnson getting taxed and Jamal Williams getting signed. I don't want to see it. But Travis Etienne, 3 down back, dude just scores touchdowns all the time. Travis Etienne, him and Najee Harris. You can see them going to the end of the first round.
Yards per carry at Clemson was 8.5.
Oh, it's absurd. It's absurd. It's not fair. Yeah, it's not fair. It's absurd.
So we're gonna end it there. Our next draft we're gonna have a little bit more fun with. We're gonna do a trade galore mock draft, and we'll go a little bit quicker with that one too. This one we kind of just wanted to unload as much information to you guys as possible. But yeah, that was a fun first mock draft. We'll have fun with the second one we do as well. Thanks for watching. I'll have some timestamps in the bottom too when you guys watch this, so you guys can enjoy. With that being said, have a great night, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. Bye.
See you in 2.0.
Bye.